Welcome to Puzzling Company, your home for at-home puzzles and mysteries. Here are your hosts, Jared and Zach.
Well, welcome back to the 24th episode of Puzzling Company. It is your host, Zach, and always with me is...
It's Jared!
Okay. You guys don't know this bit, but Jared's been doing the, it's Jared, it can only be Jared. It's literally been this since I came into the office.
I've got a lot of energy today.
No, that's good. No, I'm feeling better, and you have energy, so we're in a good spot. But this is going to be a great episode. We are going to be discussing cold case crackers, and we covered the three different scenarios they provide. There's three cases. So one is the Edinburgh train bomber. The other is Fair Lake Heist. And then I think the other one is 12th Street Theater.
12th Street Theater, yes.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, we're going to cover all three, but if you guys stick with us, we're going to get into it.
Zach, I'm so sorry to hear about the robbery at your house last night. Are you okay?
I'm fine. But Jared, literally no one broke into my house last night. But I do feel a little upset because you did stand me up for game night.
Okay. Your text literally reads, break in tonight, !
Jared, that's literally the name of the game. It's a really cool new concept where you're trying to solve puzzles to break into the game instead of out of it. All other games follow really cool narratives about real life places. We really should have people check it out in our show notes to get details on where they can pick up this game.
So it's called Break In?
Yes, it's breaking in, not breaking out.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Wow. What a great ad from Jared. You know, I always celebrate myself, but I think Jared does a great job in these ads.
I think it's about time I got some credit.
Okay. I'm done. All right, you lost last time we played a competition game. I'm always going to bring this up, by the way. But no, welcome back. We are in our first section. This is where we are going to discuss our likes with the games that we played, as well as things that we thought could have room for improvement. Just a reminder, this is not to like dog or really get down on anyone or any of their creations. This is more of a part to just discuss things that we generally liked about the game, but then also things that, you know, we want to see the community grow. So where we thought they could improve potentially.
Absolutely. Zach, why don't you tell us a little bit about Cold Case? We talked about the three different games, but what can somebody who wants to play from Cold Case, what can they expect? Just for a brief overview of the experience.
Yeah. So how Cold Case Crackers works is you are presented a case. Obviously, it's a cold case, so it's been out of time for a little bit. You know, the evidence kind of went dry, stuff like that. So you're trying to figure out kind of these weird connections. So you get presented a folder, two folders actually. One is kind of the case itself and some of the pertaining information you need for the narrative, as well as like a starting point, kind of. You get 4 phases of the game. They're presented in white envelopes, if I remember correctly, and I think all of the games that we played. But those are like the main 4 phases of puzzles or, you know, like solving that you need to do. And then
that's uniform.
Correct. That is uniform across all 3 games that we played. And then the other part is you get another big folder that just has lots of information, transcripts from, you know, interviews, different key witnesses, newspaper articles, anything pertaining to it. And so how the game would work is that in each phase, you're presented basically a question in terms of like, it'd give you some story information. And you also have a website, pretty good website that has, you know, some information as well about how you're supposed to play with it. But the goal is that every phase you get a question they ask you like, okay, how would I figure out what 2 items I need to, you know, figure out this person? Or
I think they called them artifacts.
Correct. You need like 2 artifacts to answer a question that you need to move to the next phase. You know, so the first one might be, what 2 artifacts would prove that the person who wants the person doing this crime would have been here at this time?
Yes.
You know, so you get like, you go through a bunch of different information and looking for 2 things that kind of match and answer that question. And then there's a answer like there's like an answering key online that you get to put your answers in and see if it's correct or not.
And that actually is our first thing that we really liked about the game is this is a very unique format.
Yes.
It really, we've not seen a whole lot like this, where you are now required to not necessarily solve a puzzle, but actually really prove something. this felt more realistic to me. The format felt very realistic to me as like an old cold case cracker. That, okay, if we're gonna reopen this case, prove it to me.
Yeah.
It made a lot of sense to me, and it was fresh, and I just really appreciated that unique take that every single time we moved into a different phase of the game, it was, well, where's the proof of evidence? It was almost like we had this like cranky, like commanding officer. Like I'm imagining just like those 90s movies that, you know, like we're kind of the hot shot detectives. We're like, damn it, chief. I know he was the one. And, you know, the chief is in there just being like, well, I can't give you a warrant without some information. And then Zach and I hit the hard streets of Nashville to prove something's really going on.
It's true. Wow. Yeah, I agree. The format is very unique. I enjoyed it a lot. There's some things about it that were just a little bit different than we're used to.
Yeah, it was definitely a new take.
But it was kind of interesting it being less puzzle based. There are some puzzles in these experiences, but it's more about putting pieces of information together and trying to solve a question.
Yeah.
You know, and figure out who did it and why. You know, a lot of it is the motive.
A lot of it is the motive, and that was very unique from a lot of the other crime games that we were playing, because you're always discovering motive, but the proof to move forward in the case always seemed the unique aspect of what we were doing. How did you feel about the narratives that we played overall? Because I enjoyed them. I think you did too.
Yeah, I think the narratives were pretty good. So I think so we were talking about this a little bit earlier. One of the things that I enjoyed was I enjoyed actually ranking them compared to each other in terms of narrative. I think the one that I enjoyed the most was the Edinburgh train bomber.
Same.
I thought the narrative was very well done in it, and the narrative reveal near the end was very good. Kind of figure out why and how and who. In the other two games, in Fair Lake Heist, the narrative was pretty solid, setting it up and stuff like that. And throughout the game, kind of makes more and more sense what happened and why. And then in 12th Street was also a pretty interesting take, trying to figure out why, you know, the theater burned in the.
Absolutely. And it was fun for us because we're so used to playing our crime games episodically.
Yeah.
And these all resolve themselves. So if you like games that you don't have to wait for the next episode, this is a good example of those. I really enjoyed the fact that it was wrapped up by the end of what we played. That's not to say that, you know, other games that we've played are bad, but it was, I think, more of a challenge for the creators to stuff it all into an hour setting and make it feel really good. The other thing that was really interesting about the narrative, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I liked the fact the more and more that I thought about it, that the case started cold and then became like happening. Like it started off as this thing that happened years ago. We're reopening it, you know, typical cold case, but then things get very real very quickly in some of these cases.
Especially I think in Edinburgh.
Yes.
I think was like the best example of it. That the moment that you started figuring out things, and to remind people or to give people an example if they don't know about these games, generally, at least in Edinburgh, I don't remember exactly in the other two, but specifically in Edinburgh, the reason the cold case gets reopened is because another is about to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of urgency.
So the fun part is the moment you start figuring out things, the person responsible starts amping it up faster. So it almost feels like the moment you solve something immediately happens where the person realizes and goes, oh crap, I have to start moving my plan along.
Right.
So you almost feel like it's a race against time to prove you're correct, but then also stop the person.
Yes.
While in the other games, if I remember correctly, they are involved, but not as much in terms of like things start escalating quicker in current time.
Yes, they do, but not as you're right, not as quickly.
Edinburgh was probably the best example of it.
Edinburgh got going in a hurry.
Yeah.
But I like that it's brought present time wise, because I think for the creators of this game, they could have just left these as old cold cases that by the end of it you discover who it is and okay, let's go get that guy, you know, scene.
Yeah.
But they chose to do their storytelling in a very unique way, and I really appreciated that. Zach, what was the last thing that we really liked about this game?
Yeah, we really liked the framing of the cold case and like the narrative along with it. So what we mean by that is I really enjoyed that when you started each cold case, you were presented a character, like a detective that was working with you, who you got to listen to like their phone call to you and stuff. You have like on the website, you get like a a bunch of audio dialogue at times to help solve certain parts of it, as well as the tip line.
Yes. Which function is the hint system, right?
Correct.
Yes.
That is correct. But it was really fun getting to have like the detective working with you who's calling you guys in, the cold case crackers, to like talk to you guys through about what they figured out and what you need to know, and kind of some more narrative revelations as they talk more, but it was fun. Like the framing was fun to come in and be like, okay, we're two detectives from this cold case crackers, business. They're calling us in because they can't solve it and they don't have the, so they call us in and they're like, please help us solve it, and me and Jared just go, all right, this is going to be easy. And then, we go in and we blow it out of the park. And then they're like, wow, we should have these people on our team. We're like, no, you're not going to pay us enough. So
we got other societies and things we belong to.
That's correct.
But I will say the other thing in with the framing of the game, I feel like they even do a really good job at the very end of giving you a tease for what the next game is going to be. Like at the end, did we play the train bombing first? So we handled the train bombing first, and at the end of the train bombing, there's a news video that plays, and that news video kind of lets you know what's coming in the next one if you decide to play them in the order that is prescribed by these. Mm-hmm. So I just think they do a really good job of the framing. Again, I do like that the hint system was framed within the narrative. It kept everything more immersive. It wasn't just a hint system, right? Yeah. They decided to step that up and take that to the next level. So I always think bonus points for that. Mm-hmm. For all that we did enjoy with this game, we always do have some criticisms. And these criticisms are meant to be encouragements. They're meant to be ways that we see that we can improve, because we are constantly trying to drive the industry forward and ask better things of it. This is not to toot our own horn, just a lot of care. But there were a couple things in this game that we felt like there could have been some room for improvement. Zach, why don't you kick us off with that?
Yeah, so to be honest, the first thing we kind of thought of was that, especially in the last two cases more than the first, but in general, it was kind of a static experience. In the first game, there's a very good narrative reveal near the end that kind of explains like why everything happened the way it's going. You kind of solve the case, the first part of the case, and then you get the big reveal at the end of the extra phase that, is about to happen. But it's because I don't want to spoil too much what that final phase is or anything. But it was really well done in the first one. It felt like it was a little static because it was the first game, so our experience onboarding onto it felt a little off, just because we weren't used to the format. But I thought it was really well. In the other two games, I felt like the static experience became more and more prevalent, like the narrative as well as the solving of the different information / puzzles never made me go, holy crap, this just happened, or a reveal never felt that way. And maybe that's just, on us, because we just started realizing how the format played. But I mean, we have played other games where I felt like I was always like, wow, that's a crazy reveal, even if I expected it.
Right. It was like you were proving the reveal.
Correct. And these, it was like we solved something, but I was like, okay, we kind of already knew that. And it didn't feel like that big when they did reveal it, because it was pretty... I'm trying to word this nicely. It was obvious to us, because by we were joking at one point, okay, I think this person did it after 2 pieces of information, and it was okay, it was clearly that person.
Mine was more so from the gameplay.
Yeah,
I felt like it was not dynamic enough, and while I really do like the format suffers a little bit when it's not being carried from envelope to envelope. Here's what I mean by that. There's 4 envelopes. Every time you open up a new envelope, you are asked every single time to prove through the information that you have that it's true. Mm-hmm. So my critique here is, if you're going to keep that format the same, right? Mm-hmm. If every single time the goal is the same, it's like being in an escape room. If every lock is a 4-letter lock or a 4-number lock, you've got to give me some dynamic range to get or to do things differently within that format, or else, like I said, it just becomes kind of flat. Mm-hmm. And that's what it felt like. I wanted to see more varied gameplay, and I think in talking to the creator, and it's a team of creators, but in talking to Carson, I think they're going to experiment with that a little bit in the future. So I'm excited about that. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, I know they can. There was one instance in every single game that I said, oh, I really like how we came to know that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a couple of them that I've posted up on my walls because I really like that. But 1 out of every 4 isn't good enough for me. I want to see them dive deeper into their puzzle world to gather information and come back with a more robust system to get us, if the format is always going to be what 2 artifacts, what 3 artifacts, what 4 artifacts, then I've got to see more in between to increase my level of diversity, which leads to more enjoyment, in my opinion. So that's what I want to see. And I know they're capable of it. I know, again, context, these are their first 3 games that they've ever put out. We enjoyed them, but I want to see more. I want it to grow more in that because, as I mentioned in the first part, the format is very unique and very enjoyable, but it needs more range in between getting you to answer if every single time the goal is the same.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. The other thing that I would say needs a little bit more help is the hint system. Agree?
Agreed.
Because it's not tiered. It's themed very well and very appropriately. But if you need more help and you have no idea how to get there, you have 2 options. Try every single combination of information, which would take you hours and is not fun, or contacting them directly. And I do want to give kudos because they have great customer support in helping them, but it's just frustrating as a game player. And we've experienced this in other games where if we want the answer, we can't get it. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I mean, it is very themed well. It is a tip line, so you get a tip about what's going on. And when the few times we used it, I would say 2 out of the 3 times, and when we checked it afterwards, it was good information. But the issue felt like there was one hint specifically that we used that didn't tell us much more than we already knew.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, well, how do I know what you're asking and I know what I'm looking at, but like, how do I? It was like we were missing one piece of information.
Yes.
That I felt like the tip could have helped gave. And that was how it felt on some of them when we went back and looked. It was that they were good, but like you said, they're not tiered. In the moment that you're like, okay, I need more help, there wasn't more help. So you're kind of like stuck unless you ask or you contact them directly.
Absolutely. And we're always advocating for the player experience, right? So what we had to do when that information was enough, it just became guess and check for us, which we imagine people have to go through just a pretty regimented process of elimination in order to move the forward game. And that's also to say the game is gated very well. Yeah. Like you're not going to breeze through this game not knowing the information.
You could not guess.
Yeah,
it's pretty difficult.
You could not guess. And that, again, that's shout out to the format. But I just firmly believe in if somebody is playing a game at home, you need to value their time above everything else. And if they want to just breeze through this and get all the right answers, that's their prerogative. Like let them go, let them have fun with that. You worry about what you need to worry about as a creator and giving them a good experience. But when you work your way through all of the available hints, which I think there was only 1 hint available for each time you moved into a new phase of the game, I firmly believe that there's got to be more. And I think that's a really simple fix. What else, Zach?
So the final thing that we kind of noticed was there was like a lot of information in these cold cases, as well as like a little bit of red herrings. So what we mean is that it felt like with how the format works, right, with getting artifacts and trying to prove the case, at the end, we kind of just realized there was a lot of information that was like kind of like extra if you wanted a little bit more narrative, but was not needed at all to solve the case.
And that's realistic.
Correct. It is.
So you could argue it the other way.
But it just felt like what it disappointed, at least me personally, was that when we would open it and then when we got to like the last 2 cases after we'd solved the first one, we got used to the format. But it felt like I just searched for what I knew exactly what would go with it, and I ignored almost everything else. Because, my instinct goes, I'm going to do it quick, right? Like, I want to solve it as fast as possible because that's what we can do. Like, I can look through things and I go, okay, well, if we're looking for this, I saw that, there's emails that I can look at in a blog, and I can look at the phone calls and figure it out quickly. And then it kind of realized at the end that half of the file we didn't use, which is fine because you're not going to use it to solve it. But I felt like I didn't even, for at least me, trying to do it quickly, we read what we needed to, but it kind of felt like we moved on. Like I didn't need to look at the rest of the stuff in there.
Right. It was this weird dynamic where it is very authentic and probably a leading reason in a cold case. There's going to be a lot of information. Nobody else has been able to solve it before.
Mhm.
But it did feel like a couple times when you're trying to limit down information that's just what we were doing with most of our time.
Yeah.
Right. And that goes back to what I was saying about it being static is it felt like one of the four to open one of the four envelopes, you did get to do a puzzle that felt familiar, but the other three, it turned into an information hunt.
Yeah.
And that was not the best experience for us, at least.
Mhm.
But if that's what you like, it's very authentic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to discount it. But it did feel like a couple times on the red herring thing that it was like, let me give you all of this new information, but the information was all like it's almost a signposting question a little
Mhm.
bit, but I understand where they're coming from. I think that's more to just put it out there. That is, if hunting isn't one of your favorite skills, then Cold Case probably is not a game that you will enjoy in its current form. If that's what you love, if you love digging through information and looking for that one little detail that might be off to prove it just right, I think it's a great game for you.
Mhm.
I think we just wanted to make that delineation a little bit.
Mhm.
That fair?
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Yeah. But overall, I thought it was a good game. It was a good experience. In talking with the creator, I think I'm more excited about some of the things that they're putting out in the future because just for me personally, it makes the game more intriguing.
Mhm.
But we'll let our guest talk about that a little bit more in the interview. Overall, I think we had a good time.
Yeah.
And we just want to say thank you for the opportunity to get to play that game.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, you guys hang on. Puzzles to the People coming at you next.
Solve puzzles, write reviews, win prizes. It's time for Puzzles to the People.
All right, Zach, pick a card, any card.
Dude, we are supposed to be doing an ad right now.
Okay, I know, just be cool, Zach. You know, I always wanted to be a magician.
I don't think this is the right time or medium for a magic trick. But okay, I've picked a card.
Okay, look at it and don't tell me what it is.
And how's the audience going to know what card this is?
Just be cool, man. I just got this new Enigmas card deck, and I just wanted to show you a new trick I've been working on.
Oh, Jared, I'm sure your trick's going to be great, but there's something you don't know about that deck.
Okay, I see what's happening. Yeah, okay.
What?
You think you're a better magician than me. You think you know more about this deck of cards than I do. You're trying to heckle me and usurp the great Jared Zini.
Jared. Well, I did back the project on Kickstarter, and I've been playing the puzzle game hidden inside. There's actually a full puzzle hunt you can discover. I imagine you got those over at davidkwongmagic.com.
Nice try, Zach, but a magician never reveals his secrets. Magician's code.
Well, if you're looking for an amazing experience from a real magician,
I'm sitting right here.
then head over to davidkwongmagic.com and pick up Enigma's Puzzle Hunt playing cards.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Puzzling Company. We are now in the section of the show that we call Puzzles to the People. Usually, and for a while now, Zach have been talking a lot about the ins and outs of gameplay, the industry. But we're going to go back to what we're doing. We're taking reviews from the people today. All of our reviews are from Amazon today. And we're going to be throwing Zach some feedback to see if he agrees or disagrees. Now, I will say the majority of the reviews, and they have quite a few reviews on Amazon, are mostly positive. Most of the games have 4.5 stars or more,
Wow.
with thousands of reviews.
Wow.
Plural, thousands. And I think that's really impressive and a testament to the owner's business acumen. But again, these are good reviews, bad reviews. We're in here to dig into them, talk about the legitimacy of them. So this first one is from Journeyman. We are talking about 12th Street, the game 12th Street in there.
Okay.
This was extremely easy. If you are into simple puzzles and quick gratification, this is for you. It took two of us about 30 minutes to solve it, but most of that time was spent carefully reading and taking notes, which we didn't really need to do. I was a little disappointed that this wasn't harder to solve and that everything was so obvious. Agree or disagree?
It's interesting. I will mostly agree with the statement. It, like, to try to compare at least how we did compared to what the reviewer put. I mean, we did solve it very quickly. It was not a crazy difficult game. in terms of like the puzzles or like trying to put the information together. It came together pretty quickly. We did spend a good bit of time putting down information, trying to figure out who did it, when really at the end of the day, like they said that, and how we felt earlier, that we didn't need really all of it. We kind of figured it out with just the piece of information that you kind of presented mainly. So, I mean, I agree. It was definitely, I don't know if it was like super easy, like compared to the other two, but it definitely was kind of an experience. So we were like, okay, once we like realized it went pretty quick. I will say we were a little bit more surprised about why and how they like the person did it, and stuff like that. Like the narrative reveal of why all that happened, in terms of that point of view. But like the puzzling and the little bit of the puzzling and the crime solving, like putting pieces of information together was very quick.
I agree a little bit. I do think this is on the easier side of games that we've played, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
Agreed.
Because we're always looking out for great games that would be open to anyone. And I think that's a goal of Cold Case Crackers. They're not just making these for the hardcore mystery solvers. Yeah, with as many reviews, they very clearly have a broad audience, and the reviews say, hey, this is working for the broad audience. So the ease of it, I think, is subjective, obviously, but maybe more so just to say, like, if this is the style of game that you're looking for, it is a little bit easier. And if you're experienced, let me reframe that. If you're an experienced game player, this game will feel a little bit easier, and it does wrap up in one episode. So if you like both of those things, I think this is a great purchase for you. Mm-hmm. But like you said, if you are looking for something a little more difficult, still within the crime genre, I do think there are more difficult games out there. But then again, that's not what they were trying to achieve. So
sure,
I think they're working on it. This next review is about the bank heist, Fair Lake Bank Heist. They said, I've done several solve a mystery games now, and this was my least favorite. This one required a ton of reading and was rather bland, as it only includes papers and photos from the case file. I tend to like others where there's a little more to the clues. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, interesting. I agree with it somewhat. There are things I disagree with. So let's go over things that I agree with. The game is it almost felt very straightforward.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
In terms of like, we very quickly realized who it was. Like, like in some of the other games, it felt like the reveal was like, and I'm saying narratively, but also like solving information wise. The other ones, it felt like there was at least a little bit of a twist or like more you had to look into.
Sure.
Specifically in Fair Lake, the moment we read the information about the person who did it, it was very clear they did it. And you're like, okay, well, I know who did it. Now I just need to find information to prove it.
Right.
Which is fine to a degree, because you still have to prove it.
Which is the driving force of the format, yes.
But it just feels weird compared to the other two, where at least the fun of it was kind of figuring out all of the why and how and who. This one, like, immediately when we read their transcript and their interview with the police, I was just like, oh, they did it. Because the fun part we had too, that we didn't talk about maybe early on, is that we gave our own opinions, like looking at just photos, who we thought did it. And I was like, we joked, and I kept telling Jared this because I wanted to make sure I felt like I was somewhat correct. I had a second guess. My second guess was always the correct one. It was not my first in the two games that we did do second guesses. And the moment I figured it out, I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, it just felt straightforward. There wasn't a moment that I felt like was a crazy like change in direction. There is a puzzle in this game that I actually really liked, and it's on our wall. That was like the one thing I would say that did spice up kind of the experience of, other than just reading the information. But I mean, I could agree with the reviewer that if you didn't like, other than that one puzzle, the rest of it is very much just reading. It
is very reading. I agree with you. So like, I think that's just another to say, like, if you don't like reading, but all of the crime games that we've played so far require
mostly reading.
It's a lot of reading. You're reading old reports. You're reading all of these things. And I'll stick up for Cold Case a little bit and saying, like, they're trying to make it authentic. Yeah. So yes, there's going to be a lot of reading. And to the note that says it only includes papers and photos from the case file, y'all know I'm a stickler for the more tangible, the more sometimes 3-dimensional. I love it. My only caveat to that is when the picture on Amazon shows you exactly what you're getting, then that has no business. Like, what did you think you were getting?
It's true.
Like this is actually something I really appreciate in the escape room world, is when I get to see real pictures of what the game space. We're actually moving that way. Like we're doing that now too, or soon will be, putting because it lets you know what type of experience you're getting into and how much care they've put into the game. So I am against probably the last two parts of this review because you didn't blindly purchase this. You should know what it looks like. And you say you've played other mystery games, you should know this territory, this subgenre mystery style crime games involve a lot of reading.
Yeah, the only devil's advocate I could play is that some of the other ones, which we talked about earlier, some of the other ones add a little bit more puzzling to the experience.
And I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
But that's it. I mean, the rest of it, you still read though when you do the puzzling. You still have to figure out information. So yeah, I mean, I disagree with the same part of the comment, but I could understand from them, if you played another company's version of the same types of games and they had more puzzles in them, that it gave you kind of a break from the reading. If you did basically only reading the entire time, and if you didn't like it, then it would be disappointing. But yeah, I mean, if they did buy it off Amazon and left the review on Amazon, the photo clearly shows everything. So I'm like, there's no way you didn't know.
Right. It's like, what?
You think there was a box that was going to appear that had the criminal in it and you had to chase him? I don't know what you expect.
The reviewers can be really, us included, I guess. Reviewers can be really crazy sometimes.
That's true.
All right, now we're gonna delve into what was our favorite game, which was the train.
Yep.
Before I ask you, tell me a little bit more. I want you to go a little bit more in depth on why that was your favorite.
There's a few different small reasons. I think the first was the narrative aspect, because I'm a big narrative person. I thought the narrative, the puzzle masking and the information masking into the narrative, was really well done. The puzzles that are in it, which I think there's actually more than one in this game. There's one I know of, at least near the end. But the puzzles were really well done. There's a fun bit of information that you find out there's maybe more than one person involved in this case. And when you get to reveal that, you gain a lot of new narrative as well as information about how to solve the case. There was enough of a diversity in the information you're trying to pick up. One of the fun parts was realizing that some of the information that we had not used before actually had good information where we needed to go. It felt like everything worked cohesively together and was masked well, that I never really dropped my narrative experience, or that I was just started guessing things. Cause I was in the tip line was very good for this episode. Every time that we looked back at it, they were spot on information that I'd want to hear.
Yes. All right, let's move to a review then.
Okay.
This is from GC. My family and I have tried a couple of these. This was one of the most logical and straightforward. All of the story progression made sense. It was not too difficult to figure out once we found the clues we accidentally misplaced. It is nice and enjoyable to solve. I can see why it has such a high rating. The stages each got progressively more challenging. However, it was not too challenging to be too difficult for a family casual game night.
Yeah, I could agree with all that. Definitely not. All three of these games are not the most difficult. We've discussed that already. They are made for a broad audience. They're not for the most puzzle enthusiast, casual families play these.
And that's great news.
Yeah, that's good. I'm very glad to hear that, because you want more people to play, So those are all really good things. I agree. It was pretty straightforward. There's nothing too crazy. I liked that there was a little diversity in the puzzling, but the narrative stayed straightforward. It didn't feel like it was crazy twists and turns. It's not an M. Night Shyamalan twist just to have an M. Night Shyamalan twist. The narrative reveal, figuring out why it all happened and who, was very well done. I was like, oh, that's really cool. That was actually very good information to realize.
And they brought up a point that I didn't realize, but looking back, I have to agree with them, is that in that one, each envelope did get progressively more difficult.
And this one, yeah.
Because and one thing we didn't talk about is you're forced to now deal with all of the information. Each new envelope, you're getting more and more and more and more information. So by the final solve, you have everything. Everything in the game is always on limits, unless you've used it.
Correct.
Obviously. But so I think they bring up a really good point. I just am really encouraged. Again, these have very high reviews, 4.5, 4.6. And the Amazon, the Amazon crowd in general ain't going to spare you anything. They're going to come for you. So I think it's great that they're hitting their target market with this. And it will be cool to see what they have going on in the future.
Yep.
Well, right now we are going to take a break and hang on with us. We're going to come back for questions for creators.
There are some awesome people who make the puzzles we love to solve. This is Questions for Creators.
Jared, I found this really cool box outside. Can we please, can we open it?
Are you out of your mind? Look what it says on the box. It literally reads root of all evil. There's no way we're opening this box.
Oh, come on, Jared. What's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst? Have you ever seen a horror movie? Listen, you don't split up your team. The basement is not a good hiding place. You don't give cute little creatures water. And above all, you don't open the mysterious and creepy box with the word evil on it.
Please, Jared.
No! But if you're listening and you have more guts than me, you should actually head over to crackanutmysteries.com and pick up a copy of Root of All Evil.
Jared? I think I need to tell you something. Well, welcome back to Puzzling Company. We are now in the part of the show called Questions for Creators. This is a fun segment that we get to have a lovely guest on the show, creator. In another episode, we've had a marketer. We're going to have some different types of people for certain parts of episodes, but generally it will be creators. So this guest is obviously going to be from Cold Case Crackers. You're going to get to meet them very soon and hear a lot of great things about their company as well as themselves. Jared, are you excited?
I am. And just a disclaimer, this is a 3-person team and we will only be hearing from one of them, but our guest will let you know about the whole crew.
So tell us your name and how you came up with Cold Case Crackers.
Yeah, so my name's Carson. I'm an engineer in education. Me and my 2 brothers, Corbin and Colin, who were mathematicians and finance majors, all really just grew up really loving playing games. And we would do something similar to our games, the mystery crime games, playing Clue growing up. So Clue, you had to find out what was in the envelope, but it got kind of boring for us really quick. So we would, have a second person or an accomplice in a second envelope. And then it was like, well, if it's not you've eliminated like most of the things in the first round. So then we started adding in more weapons, more people, more goals. And it kind of ended up being close to what we do today. And that was at like the age of like 13 or 14. And then we developed the 12th Street case probably in 2015. As a dinner date night thing with friends. And it wasn't nearly as elaborate as it is today, but our friends loved it so much and we put so much effort into it that we decided, well, we'll just invite another set of friends over, different friends, because like we really want to get our fruit for our labor out of this. And they loved it so much too. So then we started working on how can we, make this playable for everyone and consistent. And we're playing with a bunch of people that know numbers. And so it was a lot of numbers at that point. Now it is what it is today, but that's how we really came about this type of game and designing these games. It all started with Clue, to be honest.
So take us from where you left off and give us a little bit more about what made you go from realizing that you all wanted to do something together to actually putting the company together and coming out with a product.
So there's so many games similar to this right now. And honestly, they're all so different in a way that I can look at the different people and say, like, honestly, I think the idea of going step by step to solve one thing, the next thing, I think it's pretty intuitive. So it may seem like there's a lot of people looking at other people and that sort of stuff, but when I play them, I see the differences. I see the the outside of the intuitive of the format of the game and more so into the storylines. I believe it was Corbin who was doing a dinner date night thing, and he was like, "Hey, you remember what we did with Clue?" He goes, "Check this out." I think he wanted Colin to edit it, which grammar is not big in when you're dealing only with numbers, especially for me too. But he wanted Colin to edit it, and he sent it to me, and we just all started, giving our facts on how it should be, and definitely not opinions. And it just turned into this really cool game. Yeah, it was definitely Corbin. He was doing a dinner date night party. I think his advisor at the time was like coming over. He's trying to impress. Yeah, the online format was a big thing that differentiates us from everyone. And that's because we didn't like the idea. It's kind of like with Clue. You're making your guess and then you open it. And if you're wrong, it stinks. So the idea for us was we go online. And I think at that point, I don't know that anyone else did that, but also it was a lot of work, a lot of upkeep. You have to upkeep the website and everything. Plus it limits people who are traveling or don't have online access. And we thought about everyone's got a cell phone within reach, so they can do that. But the online thing is what really differentiated us at the beginning. And I think a lot of people are doing it now. I don't really look too much at the competitors. I play a lot of games, and I've played a few of them where it had online. But the fact that you could confirm your answers online allowed you to be like, no, you're not right. Give it another go at it. And that was the big differentiator with what we were doing.
What makes your games unique compared to other crime games?
I'm reserved to compare to other games because I think they're all great. And I'm a critic, so I end up criticizing things. So what I will say is all of the games are great. I love playing all of our competitors' games. I won't endorse them, but I love playing them, so I won't name them. But we stand out in that there are murders involved because everyone wants a little murder, but our cases are centered around a crime more so than a murder. Like our 12th Street Theater case is a theater fire and arson case that's wrapped up in a murder. Our Edinburgh train bomber case is a serial train bomber with plenty of murder going on. Our Fair Lake bank heist case, again, is a bank heist with some murder that occurred. So we stand out in that field, and I'm happy that no one else has moved into that area, but I find it interesting when we look at the competitors, they all still stick to like a murder, not really centered around much of a theme of a different crime. And I think a lot of them are swaying away from, and this is a little spoiler, I don't know when this publishes, but they're swaying away from serial killers. And so our next case may or may not have a little bit of that in there. But the competitors, let's talk about the box sets with all of the like 3-dimensional clues in them. We're a flat case file. It allows us to put more information in there, more detail, because of weight restrictions on Amazon and shipping international and things like that. We standard 12 ounces. Going above that costs us a lot more money shipping, which would increase the price for our customers. And we think we're at a competitive price area for what we do. All of our games are handmade, and we actually print a lot of the items ourselves because we want them to come off of a Xerox printer because that's how they would come off in a police station. We do have a lot of the stuff, like the color stuff. We want it to be high quality. So we do have that printed. We print it all with local companies. And so authenticity. Some people would like, we don't do this because we don't want to print a coffee stain on our items. If we were going to do it, we would have someone sit there with a cup of coffee and, just back and forth with a cup of coffee. When we started doing our games, all of our evidence stamps on our folders were hand done. Big old stamp, the cold case cracker stamp, all hand done. And I mean, forearms got great workouts, but it became impractical if we wanted to get the game to so many people. But we add paper clips to the games. All of our stuff is paper clipped together. We hand cut out newspapers by hand as if they're clipped by hand. And, we take a lot of those actions that I don't see. I see it in some competitors just to leave I don't want to criticize, but I don't see that in everyone. Having a little like hand done, handmade, craft type of piece to their games.
Dive us into a little bit of the puzzling aspect, because we really liked the format. We thought it was very unique, but how are you going about the business of filling in the gaps between each time that they have to provide artifacts?
The big thing to us, like I said, we differentiate. We're a big story game. Is the story, right? It has to be a good story. So, in essence, we're writing a book first, a short story, if you will. And so we come up with the story, and then when it comes to puzzles, Colin's the puzzle guy. He loves puzzles. The cipher that's in the Fair Lake Bank Heist case was just like, he smiled for weeks, loving doing it. And I'm more of a critical thinking puzzle person. He's more of a, ciphers and all this stuff. So we really all fit together. Corbin is so much into like the details of the hand cut out stuff I was talking about, and as well as the challenges. Like, what's the challenge that has to be accomplished for the game? So when we start talking about it, we all kind of add to something, and it doesn't conflict, and it just becomes good. And we're designing the one case right now, and I don't want to give spoilers, but that's kind of what I'm thinking on right now. Is we have this pretty intricate thing we're doing in this case right now, and I had the original idea on this one item, and then Corbin brought stuff in, and I was like, man, that really elevates this. And then Colin brings in his puzzle part of it, and I'm like, man, that really elevates it. So surprisingly, we work really well together in developing them. But after we've come up with the story, the next thing is what do we want the challenges to be? So let's break this story into quarters. And then in this first quarter, what would the challenge be? And we want it to be realistic. We want our detectives to have a hard time, right? On the new case, you can't just open an old cold case. You're going to your detective, and that detective's like, there's no proof that this is related. We can't reopen this case. This case is closed. This case is taken care of. We're not bringing this back to light. So you may have to go out and find some evidence to even for them to allow you to open the case. So just things like that. But we break it up into the portions of the story, then try to come up with challenges, but challenges that are like, some of them are stereotypical. You see them in the TV shows, and then other ones of them are, creative and puzzle. But people love the crime shows, so we want to add a little of that in there too.
So tell us a little bit about the stories in each of these cases, how the narrative plays into a lot, and how the interaction between information and the puzzling kind of play into it.
So the cold case draws you in at the beginning. It's kind of a difficult transition, to be honest. The cold case draws you in at the beginning because everyone's like, you mean I can do something everyone else couldn't do? But it can quickly become dull. So I'm glad you noticed that, but most people notice that, and they love it about our games, is like it escalates so fast. Like, you're on the hunt for people are dying. It's just like, it's getting crazy. Test groups are really key for that. We'll put it somewhere. We'll put that transition of that escalation in different areas. And sometimes, to be honest, we'll switch a phase. We'll make phase 3, now phase 2, provide the evidence a little differently and slightly change the story, just to change where things like kind of escalate and become active. There's always a reason that the case opens up. Something new has happened. Something new's come to light. On our newest case, I'm pushing really hard for something new may have come to light. This detective is like, I know this signature, and we need to open this case. And everyone in the force is resisting. And so he reaches out to the cold case crackers and was like, we got to get them to reopen this case. So we're trying to do it in different ways, but there's always a reason it reopens. There's a new bomb letter. There's new evidence. They go to sell the theater, and you find different ownership and you find different evidence. There's always a new reason to open it that's come to light. And we're even becoming more creative with that in our next case.
You've mentioned this a couple times during the interview, but what is the future of Cold Case Crackers? Are we expecting more similar cases? Are you guys going to change format, different products? Anything that you can tell us would be great.
So we're going to keep developing cases. People love them. We just ran a Father's Day special, and we're running some other specials for like the community, and everyone's getting back together with people, and we want to give them something to do. And the first 3 comments on the post we put on Facebook was, "New case, please. Waiting on your next case. Really excited about your next case." Within like 10 minutes of posting it. So we're definitely going to keep doing cases. The cases are going to be different. They're going to be new. We're trying to avoid repetition that we see in other areas. But our cases ultimately break down into 4 categories. And let me try to get these right because Colin is like key on 2 of these. There's a puzzle, there's an online, there's a clue-based orientation, and then there's some way that you use, I'll just say detailed artifacts. There are more like premium artifacts in the game. So we have it broken up into those 4 items, and that's how we kind of base all of our games, is doing it that way. We are working on another product. It's a card game. It's replayable. It's not. I wouldn't say it's similar to the cold cases. It's just something new that we want to put out so that people can play it all. We feel a little guilty that the games are playable once, but we offer information and stuff so they can repack the game and give it to friends and stuff like that. But it's a story. Ultimately, playing it again it's the same story, right? It's like a book. But so we wanted to develop something that people could buy and play over and over and over again. And so we got a card game in the works. Our graphic designer is killing it. She's been really coming along. We've got all of and I'm not gonna give you too much, so I'm just gonna tease you, like crazy. We've got all the graphic work done. We've got the card designs done. We've got the gameplay. We're moving on to box design and really the wording for the instruction book. And then we're going to be doing our first prototypes here in probably about 2 months. We'll start test groups on that. So we're hoping to get that out by the end of the year. Hopefully, we'd love to hit the Christmas season with it. But yeah, so we are expanding just because we want to. We love doing games. We love putting stuff out. So we are expanding a little bit there. And yeah, also like socially with the games we have, it's more, a lot of the expanding has to do with what your products are, but we also are doing a lot of expansion into different areas of communities and society with our games. So some people will call that marketing, but we're more or less making sure that everyone has the opportunity to play it and knows about it. You can market online, but surprisingly, the generation chasing my generation doesn't use Facebook really. And I didn't know that. And we're looking into this stuff and I'm like, Facebook is king. We have to advertise on Facebook. And then we're looking at the demographics that Facebook is giving us on the people that are clicking on our links. And I'm like, why is no one younger like our links? And just because there's not that many young people using it. So, but like for breweries are a good example. We're getting into breweries. We're offering it as like an alternative to I say bingo, but that's how old I am. Trivia nights, an alternate to trivia nights, and so that's pretty fun. Escape rooms. We're looking at offering it in escape rooms, kind of like you can take it home. So there's different people that do these different things. Different people are the type of people that go to breweries or distilleries. People go to escape rooms, and then the different types of escape rooms, as running all the escape rooms you guys do, the different difficulty levels, bring in different types of people to the different escape rooms. And so just trying to get the whole world of people that would enjoy our case is a lot of the expansion we do, because we haven't even begun to get all of our games in the hands of everyone in the world. So that's a lot of what we want to do, but we don't want to keep our detectives hanging either. So the ones that are sitting there waiting to get the next case, we'll get them cases too. But like I said, the 3 of us run it. We have great contractors. We have probably like 25 or 26 contractors and workers that help us build all of our games. And we stay busy. We stay super busy. And the next thing we'll have to do if we're going to do larger expansions is going to have to be to bring on more workers, which we're happy to do, give people jobs and opportunities. And so, we're maxing out and then growing our groups and then putting out new cases. That's other expansion, is infrastructure expansion as well.
And the question we ask everyone, what are you guys currently playing? It can be a board game. It could be another escape room style thing. It could be a murder mystery. It could be any type of thing, but what are you playing currently and what would you recommend?
Okay, Hunt a Killer it's fun. I like it. I'm trying not to name names because I don't want to criticize, but I got to say this. I don't like the subscription services of anyone. I don't like being left hanging. And people I know don't like it either. They liked our game. You talked about it. It's all in one. So to come back to the subscription first thing, like a full round circle, I don't like that. So the patience in me is like, I don't like it, but it's fun. It's creative. It's different. And I mean, the biggest thing about it is it's everywhere. The marketing campaigns were huge. So many people have played it that you can talk to people about it and socialize about it. University Games put out some pretty good stuff recently. I really like those. We stray from the ones that are too similar to us just because we don't want to end up being influenced to like do and end up doing similar things, and then that's not cool. Kind of let them do their things. Mysteries by Christine would be one of those. She does more of like a children's based things with squirrels and stuff, but it's very similar. You're going through different phases to do stuff. So early on, I played the squirrel one just because we were considering kid stuff. And then I was like, really, let's just do our own thing. And after playing that and realizing, man, we should do this and this, I was like, we need to stop. We need to stop looking at stuff. So we actually chose not to go into children's at that time because we were getting like all our ideas from someone else's game and we didn't want to do that. I would suggest Clue. Clue takes you so many places. Ultimately, I know these are board games. Ultimately, I love going to escape rooms. I love doing in-person stuff. So, I'm excited to try out your escape rooms. And yeah, so you said you were doing a new build and everything. I'm excited for all that stuff to get open back up and actually go out to escape rooms.
Carson, we just want to say thanks so much.
Thank you
for coming on the show. We're super excited about what you guys are doing in the space, and we'll have you back on sometime. Maybe meet the other boys in the band and talk about some more cold cases. Ooh. But if you want to check out a cold case by Cold Case Crackers, you can do a couple things. You can find them on Amazon. You can also go to coldcasecrackers.com and pick yourself up a copy. The games run for $29.99 USD. And for us, how can you help us out, you say? Well, it doesn't cost you anything to help us out. You can help us out for free.
Free?
Right now. Open your smartphone device, your computer, find the Puzzling Company, shoot us a review, or just click that subscribe button.
What if I have a Nokia?
They still make Nokias?
I think so.
Do you remember the N-Gage?
Yeah.
Oh, and it was the phone, and it was like the precursor.
I don't know why. I'm imagining someone like listening to this podcast somehow on a radio and they have a Nokia phone. They're like, I can't help. Go to your local library and borrow a computer.
Research the N-Gage.
Yep.
And you'll find the great predecessor to all of the mobile gaming that we see these days.
Oh, yeah.
But for us, for real, check us out, puzzlingcompany.com, at Puzzling Company on all of our social medias, and be looking out for some cool stuff coming out soon. But that's going to wrap us up for today. I'm Jared.
This is Zach.
Thanks, guys.
See you.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Puzzling Company and online at puzzlingcompany.com. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, keep puzzling.